the captain and the crew would like to thank you for travelling with us on Northerly Dailies and wish you a safe and pleasant onward journey.
Welcome to episode 83 of the Cycling Europe podcast. My name is Andrew Sykes and I've just arrived on Shetland. I'm in Lerwick. I'm in the Co-op car park, and as I wheeled the bike down the ramp of the ferry, it started chucking it down, and it's now stopped. It's only 5 minutes later. I suspect that might be the story of the next few days, well, the next week that I'm on Shetland. Once I've done that, I'll be catching the ferry down to Orkney. Today, well, hopefully I'm just going to spend the day in Lerwick. But the first thing I need to do is to find the hostel, which is, according to Google, 700 metres up the road. It's only 8:15 in the morning, but I did contact the hostel yesterday just to say, can I leave my bags here during the day so I can go and explore Lerwick. It's called the Islesburg House Hostel, and outside it says it was voted the world's best hostel in 2011.
Come from?
Well, I've just gone off the ferry.
Oh, so right.
Have you been here before?
Yes, yes.
Right, okay. To this hostel, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay, so...
Except that, I mean, when I first stayed here 10 years ago, you could get a cheap bed in a shared room.
Yeah.
And they've stopped doing shared rooms now.
Yeah, I did wonder when I booked it, yeah.
Oh, you have booked, yes, so
Yeah,
you know about that, yeah.
Where are you from?
London.
Hi.
Morning.
Just arrived with you?
Yeah, I've come with my bike, so I've just gone off the ferry.
Yeah.
So can I leave my bike? Oh, sorry, well, not the bike actually, but the bag's here.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Excellent.
I'll just make sure you're in the book though. So you don't hang around, there's no bed for you. What was the name?
Andrew Sykes.
Yeah, here you are.
Brilliant.
So, we have got, I mean, you'll be taking your bike with you right now, but we have got a last luggage room here. You can
Okay.
park up. Right, and you can leave stuff in there if you want.
Yeah. Excellent.
And then you can go away and come back later on any time through the day.
Okay,
But,
brilliant.
well, not we come back soon. The room won't be ready till about 11 o'clock at the earliest. But you're welcome to go and come back at lunchtime anytime. So suits you. Are you ready?
So I booked
separately. But
That all went to plan, and I got back on the bike, headed back down the hill, and I'm now by the water again. In the background you can hear somebody or some workers looking as though they're digging piles. In the distance on the hill I can hear them or see them. You can probably hear them as well. Anyway, I'm at a place called Hayes Quay, which is where the museum is, the Shetland Museum. Now, back in 2021 I visited the Outer Hebrides, and at the end of that trip, when I got to Stornoway, after having cycled the Hebridean Way, I visited the Outer Hebrides Museum in Stornoway, which is an excellent museum, and I regretted not having had the opportunity of going there at the beginning of the trip, because it would have kind of set me up for what I was about to see, but I had to kind of relive everything at the very end of the trip. So I thought while I was on Shetland I would do it the proper way around, and I'd visit the museum first before heading off and exploring the other bits of the island. Just an update on the weather. It is now, there's barely any wind, and there are large patches, well they're more than patches, swathes of sky above me which are blue. So if it stays like this it'll be brilliant. Don't think it will, but I can hope. Now the plan for today is to go to the museum. It doesn't open until 10 and it's only about 9 o'clock now, so I've got a bit of time to wait. There's another attraction on the other side of the quay. Not exactly what it is, but I think they show films. First impressions of Lerwick itself, well, it's a port. Although there are some very nice buildings dotted around, certainly in the area where the hostel is. It's your typical harbour town where the ferry docks, but not unpleasant, surrounded by hills, which makes sense because somebody did make the comment to me that wherever I go from Lerwick, it's going to have to be uphill. Now, the plan for tomorrow, as it stands, is to head north for a couple of days, camp somewhere north, then head to the west, camp somewhere for 1-2 days somewhere in the west of the islands, and then finally go down to the south to Sumburgh, and again camp down there before returning to Lerwick to get the ferry down to Orkney middle of next week. So that's the plan. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. My only concern is the weather, and whether it is good, bad, indifferent. I'd be happy with indifferent, I'd be delighted with good. But we'll see how that pans out. I shall no doubt mention the weather occasionally as you continue to listen to this podcast. I'm sheltering from the weather, but not from the rain, from the beat-in sun. About 3/4 of the sky is bright blue, and it's a beautiful morning. Unbelievable compared to what it was like coming off the ferry this morning. Anyway, after having that brief visit to the museum, I'll go back there later. I went to the tourist office in the older part of town, far nicer than the ferryport area, and after a wander down the pedestrianised street in the centre of Lerwick, I started on a recommended route, a recommended walking or cycling route around the headland just to the south of the town centre. It's called Nab Head. Very wild and cracking views, quite historic. A few panels exploring and explaining the history of the strategic importance of the area during various world wars and even the American Revolution. And continuing to make my way around the coast in the or under the blue sky of today. It's fantastic. You can hear the waves probably crashing into the shore, crashing into the rocks just in front of me, and I'm sheltering in 1, 2, 3, 5, can I count? No, 4 upturned small boats which have been arranged rather artistically so that you can sit on benches underneath them, and it's great shelter from the rain, the wind, or for me from the sun. Unbelievable.
We're always speaking about the weather in Shetland, and on the outside of the ring are some words associated with the weather in winter. Winter weather. First, snow. We call it flockra when it falls gently in large flakes. But when it's a fierce blizzard, it's a moorie cavi. Then, when the thaw comes and the snow melts, it comes an uplausen. And to follow that, we really don't want a valency, which is a violent storm. Flockra, moorie cavi, uplausen, and valency, words to make you feel cold.
A single terminal on Shetland, serving all the oil producers and linked to the oil fields by pipelines, was the logical answer. It was the start of the Sumburgh project. For many Shetland Islanders, the project came as a shock, out of all scale with their past. When finally they accepted it, it was as project partners, with guarantees of safeguards for their future.
Oh yeah. The boat, which is on the far end,
Yeah.
in the tall tower,
Yeah.
has it been burnt or something?
No, it's just a window, I think. Yeah, I don't think that's the case. Yeah.
Is there like tar on it?
There's tar on it, that's where it'll be.
Right, okay.
And you can smell that
Yeah.
as well, yeah. It's like a smoky thin smell.
Certainly no tar on it, you know the liquid from it.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And the treasures that were found at St Ninian's, I mean, it's just such a shame that they're here. They're not here. They're down in Edinburgh.
We've had a few exhibitions where they've like taken them up for certain amounts of time, but
Yeah.
I think our main thing is that insurance and also security for it, because I
Yeah.
think they've said we would need 24-hour, like somebody sitting watching it the whole time.
Okay.
So it's not the most handy thing ever. But it's good if we can get it up for exhibitions so that local people and everybody can see
Yeah.
where it's from as well.
Because how accurate are those
Very
replicas?
accurate, yeah. They do look a lot like them, but if you go to the National Museum in Edinburgh, that's where they are. They're on display in like the basement kind of area, and it's a very poor display. Like they're not appreciated at all.
It's so similar with the. I was on the Outer Hebrides a couple of years ago with the chessmen over there, and they're all in Edinburgh or London, and they've got about 2 or 3 up there, and you think it's such a shame because it's a fantastic museum.
Those as well, they're split because some are in London, some are in Edinburgh. It's not even like the whole set, which is
I think
ridiculous.
they had them up here for a period for an exhibition as well at some point in the past. So,
You know, when you've got a great museum like this, and they've got a great museum as well in Stornoway, I think it's just such a pity
I
that
know, we might as well have them.
it's almost as if they're making excuses as to why they don't want to.
There will be.
This island is secure. You can't go on and off it very easily.
No.
And there's no way you're going through the ferry
Yeah.
or anywhere. Or anything. It's very close to them, I suppose. Well, that kind of stuff.
Hopefully someday we'll change that.
Nobody's nicked my bike. So.
No. You're quite safe with that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you. It's Friday morning after a night at the youth hostel. It was nice to get a good night's sleep after the night on the ferry, which was a bit on-off, to say the least. The weather isn't looking great. I'm sitting in the porch of the very good hostel where I stayed in Lerwick, but I'm just hoping it's going to be like it was yesterday in terms of the weather. Basically yesterday, came off the ferry and it was chucking it down, but it ended up being a really nice day, and I can only hope that today's going to be the same. The plan is to head north, not all the way to the top, but to a campsite which is probably about 2/3 of the way up. I've got a ferry to take later, and then tomorrow I'll go all the way to the top of the islands. And I've got, mind you, he says looking at the puddle outside, it is still raining. I think I'm going to grab some a coffee and a breakfast in town and then set off. It's currently about, 8 o'clock, so it's still quite early. As long as I get off by 9 o'clock, that should be okay.
So, I'm already sorry for the wait.
That's all right. Can I have a black coffee, an Americano,
Yeah?
and a full English breakfast, please?
You'll have to pay no attention to notices in Shetland. Was you on holiday?
Say again?
Are you come on holiday?
Yeah, I arrived yesterday. I just stayed at the hostel, so
At the hostel?
I'm heading north.
You're heading north?
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty.
Pretty kind of windy and rainy today.
Well, yesterday when I came off the ferry, it was chucking it down,
Yeah.
and then it was a beautiful day.
Is
So.
this your first time in Shetland?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Are you heading up north to the Isles, or are you...
I'm gonna head up to not quite all the top to the top today.
Hullswick? Bray?
Borough something.
What is this?
It's a campsite, a little campsite.
Bray.
No. Anyway, it's about 2/3 of the way up. It's after the first ferry, and then I'm going to go right up to the top, hopefully tomorrow.
No, it's no Yell. Are you going on to the island of Yell? West Borough?
Right, I've hit my first bit of bad weather. It's been raining now for about, 15, 20 minutes. It's just a saving grace that it's blowing in the wind and the wind is still blowing from the south. So that means I'm not cycling into it. However, it is not nice. And I've taken refuge, you can probably hear the echo, in one of the bush shelters. Well, I'll plod on. I'll wait for a few minutes and see if it improves. I'm still on the main road. There was a point where I could have taken a side road which would have taken me along the coast, but you know, if it was blue skies and a fantastic day, that's what I would have done. But as things stand, I'm just wanting to get to the ferry initially, and then hopefully the campsite, and hopefully the weather will change for the better. Fingers crossed. Reporting from another bush shelter. I've got a feeling this podcast may turn out to be a series of recordings from the various bush shelters of Shetland and Orkney. Well, certainly if it keeps raining. That was a very wet ride, not very pleasant at all. A few breaks in the rain, but overall I would say probably since leaving Lerwick 60% of the time it's been raining. But anyway, I've arrived at the ferry port. The ferry port in, no idea where I am. Looking around to see if I can see anything. I've forgotten the name of the ferry. Anyway, it's the ferry that takes me to Yell. And it was pulling in as I came down the road. And now it's sitting in the harbour. Blue and white ferry with its mouth wide open, waiting for people to board. But I can't see anybody there. It's kind of a deserted ship at the moment, but at least it gives me some time to catch my breath and, well, I don't think I'm going to dry off much, but become a bit less wet while standing in this bush shelter. "15 minutes of respite from the weather on an almost deserted ferry. It does look a bit brighter to the south. I'm clutching at straws here, but it does look a bit brighter. And I haven't got that much more to cycle. It's only 10 to 12. Do I really want to be cycling in a day like this? I'm just thinking, could I go further? Because the next campsite further north is actually in the grounds of a hostel. I might ponder that. If there's a shelter on the other side when I get to Yell, I might just take a few minutes to pause and rethink perhaps the journey, whether it's worth continuing today. Who knows? Is it better to get really wet on one day, or wet on one day, dry off and get wet again on the second day? There's too many things to consider. I'm on the ferry to Unst. I decided just to keep cycling rather than stop on Yell. So I just it was a pretty good ride, but it was very, very wet again at the end. Oh, if I hadn't had that last 5-10 minutes at the end, I would have been dry. But I'm now completely wet again, which is annoying. But anyway, it's not now too far to get to the hostel stroke campsite at somewhere beginning with G that I've forgotten. Gar something. Anyway, I'll be there hopefully within the next hour, if not less, and then hopefully get a chance to dry off properly and set up camp for probably 2 days. Another ferry terminal, another island. I arrived on Unst, and I'm in the, they call them ferry terminals. It's more like an echoey room, and I've spread my map on the floor. I keep assuming that I've actually explained what the plan was. I don't think I ever did explain what the plan was. The plan was, originally, arrive in Lerwick, did that yesterday morning, and then spend a day in Lerwick. I did that. And then today, cycle as far as Burrovo campsite, which is on the southern end of Yell, and then continue north to Unst and stay at Gardisfold Hostel, which is also a campsite, on the southern side of Unst tomorrow night. But with the weather being so horrible, and actually with me making good distance, because the weather, at least the wind was pushing me north, I arrived on Yell pretty early. It was only about midday. So, well, I thought if the weather's going to be bad and I'm wet already, I might as well just keep going. It did get a bit drier crossing Yell until the final 5 kilometres, where it was just horrible. It's worse, obviously, when you're cycling into it, and there were a few turns where I was cycling south, which meant I was cycling straight into the wind and the rain. There were long periods when it wasn't raining, so that wasn't too bad. But I'm now within spitting distance. I think it's 4 kilometres to Gardisfold Hostel and campsite. I'm hoping that, they have lots of pitches outside for tents, but I'm just hoping they have reasonable facilities for drying, perhaps just sitting, dare I say, drinking my whiskey. I've got the list here from the tourist office yesterday in Lerwick. It says this is Gardisfold Hostel, caravan and campsite, 27 tent pitches, kitchen facilities, cold water supply, laundry facilities, toilets and showers. It doesn't make mention of a nice cosy room with a log fire, an armchair, and enough space for me to sit and sip whiskey while looking over the sea outside and the horrible weather. But I remain hopeful. Saturday morning, and I'm now on Unst, and the weather's looking up. Still very cloudy, still quite breezy, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was yesterday. And I just kept going and going and going until I got up to Unst, which is Britain's most northerly inhabited island, I think. The plan today is to head a little bit further north. But anyway, I stayed last night at a fantastic hostel. The plan was to camp outside. You can camp outside on the lawn, but the weather was so awful that they had a dormitory in sight, so I took one of the beds in the dormitory, as did 3 other people who arrived, all with the intention of camping, and all decided as soon as they saw the dormitory to stay inside instead. I'm going to stay here for 2 nights, and it's a brilliant location. It's called the Gardisfold Hostel, and it's on the southern side of Unst, and I've just come down to the shore just to look over the water, and I'm standing, would you believe it, in a French cafe. It is Le Petit Café chez Simone. Don't know who Simone is, but it's an honesty cafe where you can pay your money, and on the opposite side of the road there's a kettle and I think some French biscuits. I'll perhaps leave that until either later today or tomorrow. So, today has started off pretty well. Let's just hope it continues that way. I've got about 20 kilometres, I think, to cycle as far as the northern part of the island. I'll be taking my time. I'm cycling without luggage, so it should, fingers crossed, be a bit easier than it was yesterday. Just making my way across the island. It's a bleak place, it's a bleak landscape. Reminds me of cycling over Lewis at the northern end of the Outer Hebrides a couple of years ago. There's no trees whatsoever, just moorland grass. Sheep nibbling away at what they can, and then a couple of lines of electricity cables, and then the odd ruined house. This is definitely a place to escape to. Spent quite a bit of time yesterday in bush shelters. It's not raining at the moment, but I found one just outside Balter Sound called Bobby's Bush Shelter. And it's all decked out in a frog theme. It's even got a chair in here. You can sit down, have a read. Various books. Whoa. Sheltering from the wind, if not the rain. You can probably hear the wind. And yeah, something to do with the RNLI. Named after William Arthur, it says outside, or I presume. There's a little puffin with his name on it, 1940 to 1947. Perhaps that's when he served in the RNLI. And I suspect, perhaps, the story might be that he was lost at sea, who knows. But anyway, yeah. Curious little place, which actually is on the map. It's on the map as Bobby's Bush Shelter. I'm just continuing to cycle. Been through Balter Sound and Haroldswick, and the road is getting narrower and narrower. It's now got passing places, a bit like on the Outer Hebrides. There are still a good number of houses around. On my map it says the most northerly house in Britain. And I think that's where the road finishes. Don't know if anybody lives there. Perhaps I'll find out. I've reached the most northerly point of the National Cycle Network. In fact, I've gone a little bit beyond it, because I've gone past the gate where there's a little farm which says you've reached the most northerly point of the National Cycle Network, and a path brings you to a crescent beach. Beautiful. I'm sitting on a little bench. Sun's out, almost. It's very cloudy. It's blowing a gale. To my right is the spaceport that at least has provided me with a decent road to cycle on up until about a kilometre ago, and then you're on your own back on the rough tracks, going to a farm where the cycle path ends in a fitting place, I have to say. Waves crashing gently against the sandy beach. It's a beautiful spot. Now, the wind is blowing, and since leaving Lerwick, it's been blowing me to where I am now for almost all of the time. I've now got to turn around and start fighting the wind all the way down to Sumburgh in the south. So as I contemplate that task ahead of me, I'm just going to sit here for a few minutes and watch the waves lap on the beach. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. You don't sound local at all.
No, but my dad was born here.
You sound
In
Australian.
Unst.
Or...
I am Australian. My
Oh,
dad
right.
was born in Unst and emigrated to Australia, so I live between here and Australia. Didn't I see you coming in?
No, I haven't paid yet, so
Oh, okay, that's
I
right.
do need to pay.
Oh, that's all right. I'll get you on the way out. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah. What's the What's the latest with the spaceport?
Don't ask me.
Right.
I'm not a faithful member of society as far as the spaceport is concerned.
Okay.
Only because I'll believe it when it all happens, but it's been going for years, and they say the rocket's going up this month, it's going up next year, it's going up the year after, and it's supposed to go up in August, and now it's October. So no,
Right.
I'm a bit of a skeptic. I'll believe it when it happens.
Yeah, because I've seen reports on the news about it.
I know.
And I've just cycled up to the end of the cycle path, up to the beautiful beach, and obviously you pass it, and
great big monster of a building.
yeah, but there are people working up there,
Are
and so clearly they do
true.
plan on.
Well, clearly they do, but as I say, it's been going for years, and I'll believe it when I see it.
Right. And the buildings that you pass, were they originally
the
RAF? Or?
Yeah, they were. Yes.
Okay.
Precisely. Yeah.
Yeah, there was about 200 personnel here.
But do some workmen stay there now, perhaps? Because this gentleman said that there was work happening up at the spaceport.
Yeah, this at the moment it's solely for spaceport personnel now.
So come on, Francis. When's the first rocket going up? It was supposed to be the year before last, then it was last year, then it was finally August this year, and now they're saying October. Isn't that right?
So they say, but
see,
I think it'll be 25.
See,
but I don't know.
No, I said I don't know, and I don't believe it until
it's
it
a
actually happens.
German company that's involved with that side of it.
And what do locals think about having a spaceport in
well,
on their island?
I think, I mean, from my personal point of view, I've got a son here, he works with the Pure project. Ross is 45, say, and I have another son in Aberdeen. No employment really for him here. For students and folk coming back for university, it's an opportunity.
If they're a rocket scientist.
No, but there'll be plenty of electronic work and all sorts of work involved.
Another bus shelter. How many is this? I've lost count. This one isn't dressed up in a frog theme. It is very bog standard, but it is very welcome because, again, just had another shower. Looks as though it's clearing, but I'm hanging on to make sure it has cleared. Yeah, I'm now on my way back, fighting the wind to get back to the hostel. Just paused at the small shop cum cafe cum petrol station just outside Baltusand. Hopefully should be back at the hostel by about 3:30, 4 at the latest, and then settle in for a nice evening looking at that view across the water, knowing full well that I'm not going to get soaked in the tent. No, it's been a good day, I've enjoyed it, and it's always good to reach the end point of something, just as I did when I arrived at Nordkap back in 2015, at the end of that long cycle from Tarifa in the south of Spain. I feel as though now, having got to the topmost point of the Shetland Isles, everything from here really down to Orkney is heading back in the direction of home. But the problem is the wind, unless it has a dramatic change of direction, will be fighting me every centimetre of the way. Oh. It's Sunday morning and I've made the short cycle from Gardisfold Hostel back down to the ferry on the southern edge of Unst. The weather is looking up, still very windy, that wind heading straight into my face now because I'm continuing to head south after having crossed Unst yesterday afternoon back to the hostel. So that's going to be the challenge for today, just fighting the wind every centimetre of the way. Gardisfold, I can't really fault Gardisfold Hostel, it was superb. Not only did it offer interior accommodation in bunk beds in the dormitory when it was very, very wet and windy on Friday night when I arrived. But really good company, really good facilities, and really good people who were staying there. A couple of French chaps who arrived on the same evening as I did and did exactly the same thing. It was good to chat to them in English and in French. There was also on that first night a couple of Scottish people, a older retired cyclist, he was from Glasgow, and then there was a woman on a motorbike who worked in a betting shop in Forfar. And then last night a couple from Herefordshire, and we had a really interesting chat about museums and history, because she'd worked in a museum down in Herefordshire. That was her background. So it's amazing who you bump into, these fleeting encounters that you have for a few hours and then you go your separate ways. Although, that said, the two French chaps, I think they're coming down to catch this ferry. It's now, according to the clock over there, 11 minutes past 9. They said the first ferry was, or they said they were aiming to get the ferry at 9:30. And I assume that's going to be the first ferry of the day, because there's no ferry here yet, so I'll probably see them in a few minutes. They're also actually going to be on the ferry, for them going back to Aberdeen, but for me going down to Kirkwall on Wednesday evening, so I'll see them again then. Now, the aim of today is to get as far as Deltin Boating Club, where I've reserved a pitch for tonight. It will mean crossing Yell. There's not a great deal on Yell. I looked carefully at the map yesterday, and my interactive map, I'd marked lots of potentially interesting things to see and look out for, but there's not really much on Yell apart from just barren moorland. And I'm going to be crossing that in, well, half an hour or so, once the ferry arrives and takes me back onto Yell. The second ferry will be a repeat of what I did on Friday, albeit in reverse, and that will take me back onto the mainland, and that is where I'll cycle on a different route. Up until that point I'm going to be basically retracing my route from Friday, but I'm going to be taking a different route on the western side of the mainland, which will take me down to Deltin Boat Club. Now, one of the attractions of going there is that there's a fish and chip shop, but it struck me this morning that actually it's a Sunday today, and it will be disappointing if the fish and chip shop is shut on a Sunday. I might check online in a second. Irrespective, I'm still going to head in that direction, and then the following day, which is, following day, tomorrow, Monday, I'm going to head down to Sumburgh and a campsite down there and stay down there for 2 nights, hopefully, before heading back up to Lerwick. So that's the plan as it stands at 13 minutes past 9 on Sunday morning. That was the sound of the bush shelter, waiting for the ferry back to the mainland of Shetland, that is. Yesterday afternoon was a struggle, I have to say, against that wind, at times quite heavy rain, past the Sumburgh oil terminal and the airport next door, the abandoned airport, on this long stretch, which was gradually uphill. I could see the road heading off into the distance. I thought, would I ever get there? Would I ever get there? A few more twists and turns around the coast, and that brought me to the town of Bray, which is quite a large settlement, quite a large place, where I'd reserved a place on the small camping area at Deltin Boat Club, where I've stayed last night. Now, you might be able to hear the weather on the tent again. It doesn't look as though it's any better. The forecast suggests that the wind is a little less strong, but the evidence I can see through the tent flap is anything but. The plan today was to go down to, or in the direction of Sumburgh, and I'd reserved 2 nights at the Leavenwick campsite down there. But I've had a change of mind. I might get down there tomorrow, but tonight I've booked into a hotel in Scalloway, which is just 30 kilometres away. So still got some cycling to do, and it's still going to be against the wind and probably quite a bit of rain, but at least I'll have a comfortable bed when I get there, and I can then sort out what I'm going to do for the remaining 2 days before catching that ferry down to Kirkwall on Orkney on Wednesday evening. Has this August been pretty typical for weather?
Well, yeah, this summer's been pretty typical. Not had that many great days at all.
No. Well, it's not been great down south, but I don't know. The wind.
You always get a breeze.
Yeah.
That's one thing you do get here.
But is it always so strong?
No, it can be mild.
Good afternoon. One adult.
One adult, £5, please.
Dry,
It's a shame about the weather.
yeah, I've been on a bike all morning.
Oh
so
no.
Absolutely so.
Oh, what a shame. So if you go around this way, it's local history. And then there's a boat exhibition out the door under the toilet sign out the door to your right.
Okay.
And then around this side of the museum is Shetland bus information.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
So I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah,
You can hang up your jacket if you want. There are pegs round the corner.
Oh, thank you. That would
And
be very
hopefully it
useful.
might have dried off.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take my time, don't worry. I'm going to do it very slowly.
And that's fine. Stay as long
Thank
as
you.
you want.
Scalloway's not a bad little town, little port, little harbour. I arrived here yesterday afternoon, well, very early yesterday afternoon, after an awful cycle. It rained every single minute of that cycle, 35 kilometres from up at Bray, and obviously against a headwind again. Really horrible cycling. So I booked myself into a hotel overnight. They did a good job of drying me off, and then spent the afternoon, as you've just heard, by visiting the museum. There's a castle here, albeit a ruined one. You can't see much of it apart from what you see from the road. But the museum was interesting, telling the story of the Shetland bus operations during the war, taking people and equipment and supplies backwards and forwards between Britain and Norway. Had a nice lunch in the Cornerstone Cafe that's just opposite me now, and then a night at the hotel and a good evening meal. Now, I really was undecided last night as to what I would do today, whether it's worth trekking all the way down to Sumburgh. The weather's looking reasonable this afternoon and tomorrow morning, so I'm going to stick with the original plan, which was to cycle down to the campsite at Leavenwick, stay overnight there. The original plan, I suppose, was to get there yesterday, but I may be able to get a bus, a public bus, down to the bottom of the islands at Sumburgh, and I should hopefully, if the weather holds, be able to cycle over the hill and at least get to St Ninian's Isle, which is a place I've been wanting to visit ever since arriving on Shetland. And then tomorrow, obviously, back up to Lerwick. More or less a reverse of what I'm about to set off and do. 27 kilometres back from the campsite to Lerwick for the ferry tomorrow afternoon. So that's the plan. But I've had plenty of plans so far, and very few of them seem to have worked out. So it may be the case today as well. All dependent, obviously, on the weather. After the horror of cycling in all that rain and wind yesterday, as I made my way to Scalloway, today couldn't be more different. It's been an amazing ride in the sunshine mainly, down to Sumburgh Head, which is where I am now. Dropped the tent and the panniers off at the campsite in Leavenwick. Met a couple of other cyclists there. They're on a tandem. Just arrived on the island this morning, I think, and they're camping there as well, so I'll see them again later. And then made my way further down the island without the panniers to Sumburgh Head, across the airport, literally across the runway of the airport, and then along the path to the lighthouse at Sumburgh Head, where the views are just magnificent. Made my way up to the lighthouse, and there's a little viewpoint up there in a panoramic, well, room, which is just unbelievable. The view that you get is amazing. Had a nice chat with the people running it about the birds that you can see around here, the puffins especially. And then I've now turned round after having reached the southernmost point of my Shetland trip, and now got to return back to Lerwick, albeit via a night at Leavenwick campsite tonight. The weather hopefully should hold until at least getting back to Lerwick tomorrow, and then a wall of water is approaching Orkney, so I don't know exactly how that will pan out in terms of the weather. But whoa, the best time to visit Shetland, like the best time to visit most places, is when you've got a blue sky and a bit of sun, and today has finally been that day, and I'm so glad that I got a nice day in Shetland, and it's especially nice because it's towards the end of my visit. So I've done end to end, I've seen all weathers, seen lots of different landscapes, met some interesting people, stayed in some very different places, learnt a lot, and I'm glad I came. And I wasn't saying that yesterday afternoon. Good morning. I like your bell. You should do.
Pie?
Never had a lasagna pie in my life before, but should keep me going up that hill.
Yeah, double carbs.
Yeah.
If they were macaroni pie as well, it's not weird on it. £2.68.
268. That's 1, 2, 3.
Lovely.
Thank you. You're another local who doesn't sound local.
No.
Where are you from?
Essex originally.
So what brought you up to Shetland?
Came up going on holiday. That was it, really. Yeah, went back. So I came up on my own. Went back to my wife. Yeah, that's it. A year later we bought a house.
So how long have you lived here now?
Only a couple of years.
Oh, right. And how do you find it?
Oh, I love it.
You don't feel isolated from the rest of the world?
I quite like that. My wife finds that more difficult.
Yeah.
Being that isolated from her family. I don't. I quite enjoy it. So that's, there is that. It's not, it's an effort for people to come and visit, and it's an effort for us to go. So, I enjoy that.
Yeah. Right, well, keep the change, it's
I'll put it in the show.
it's a community shop, isn't it?
Thank you.
In fact, there's another penny there. Stick that in as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Right, well,
Enjoy your holiday.
well, I'm catching the ferry back tonight, so
That'd be a
this is
rough
the
one.
last bit. Yeah, I've seen it's going to be really quite windy, isn't it?
So, yeah, it's going to be southerly wind, so you'll be sailing right into it.
Do they ever cancel the ferries because of the wind? So there is a risk that they might.
They do, yeah. We sometimes have weeks up here when we don't get a boat in. 4 or 5 days that no freight boats, no passenger boats. It doesn't get. But a southerly wind, I'm not saying that you'll be sailing directly into it. It depends on the swell and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, they do catch some fun.
Right, well, I might be back then. Right, cheers.
You'll get they normally notify you well in advance. If you haven't heard anything yet,
Right, I'll check my email then.
Yeah, I'll check my email.
Right, cheers. See ya. Ooh, that was interesting. Just cycling up the hill away from St Ninian's Island and the tombola of sand, which is very beautiful. Perhaps in comparison to what I saw yesterday, it's kind of a notch down the scale of beauty, but impressive nevertheless on a geographical level. It's such a shame though that there's loads of junk down there, whether you consider junk to be camper vans and caravans, but also wheelie bins, some discarded metal trailers, and various bits of fishing equipment that look as though they've been dumped, which is a real shame. Just called in at the Bigton community shop and just heard the chap say that, well, if the winds pick up, they do quite often cancel the ferries. And looking at the forecast, although it's reasonable until this afternoon, until 3-4 o'clock, it's going to be, there's kind of a sudden change in the weather. A lot of rain and, most worryingly, some very high winds forecast for this evening, which is when I'm supposed to be catching the ferry to Kirkwall on Orkney. Well, I'll worry about that later. Today might not be my final day on Shetland after all. But yeah, great place to camp last night, Leavenwick campsite. And met up with some people that I'd bumped into at Gardesfold earlier in the week. Some tandem cyclists as well, who we had a mutual connection. They were from the West Country. In fact, they knew Tim Sanders, who appeared on the pre-trip podcast all about cycling in Shetland. So it's a small world, certainly in the cycling world. Next stop, Lerwick, for the ferry, my final stop on Shetland. You've done a bit of cycling in Shetland. You've only moved here quite recently. How do you find the cycling in Shetland?
In a word, I would say hilly. Great scenes, great scenery, beautiful islands. Can be fiercely windy, but good exercise.
Yeah, I think that kind of sums up what I've experienced in the last week or so. Do you think there's any future in, for perhaps having off-road bike lanes and things like that? Do you think that's ever going to happen in Shetland?
I mean, that's a good question. I know there's been conversations about that, and cost always comes up as the main barrier to doing that. But having cycled, you can see along quite a lot of the roadside that there's definitely space for it. There's potential in the sort of verges.
There is actually a stretch. I noticed it yesterday, going down to Sumburgh. There's a stretch just at one point. It looks as though they've built a bike lane, and then it finishes abruptly. Is that a bike lane?
There are some bike lanes that are unfinished. I know that there's one sort of in, Tingwall as well. But I just don't know if there's signage needing to put on it and sort of officially open it. Yeah.
If you were to say one thing to encourage people to come and cycle here, in a way that similar way to what I've done, what would you say to them to encourage them to actually come and do a bit of cycling here?
I have to say, I would say get an e-bike. Plenty of places where you can hire one out for the day.
Yeah, I did meet a couple of Germans yesterday who had e-bikes, and they were staying in hotels, and that's how they were charging them. But yeah, that would be a good solution. Yeah. So that was part 1 of episode 83 of the Cycling Europe podcast. Thank you to Andrew. He was the final voice that you heard there, not me, a different Andrew. He'd contacted me on social media after seeing some of my posts, and he lives in Lerwick, and we met up for a coffee and for a chat on my final afternoon before I caught the ferry. So thank you to him. The ferry that took me to Orkney, and Orkney will be the subject of part 2 of episode 83 of the podcast, and that should be available, hopefully, very, very soon. Thank you to everybody who contributed to the podcast, albeit anonymously in most cases. Thank you to Andrew for his chat at the end there. Also, thank you to Anne, Jane, Tim and Martin. And if you remember, they were in the pre-trip podcast that I produced. That was episode 81. And they talked about their own experiences of cycling on Shetland, but also on Orkney. So you may want to go back and listen to that again, if you haven't already done so, before you listen to part 2. Thank you to Rob Ainsley, as always, for providing the music. If you'd like to get in contact with the podcast, you can do that by visiting cyclingeurope.org/contact. If you'd like to support the podcast, and thank you to those people who do, you can visit cyclingeurope.org/support. So thank you for listening. Episode 83 will continue on Orkney very soon. Thank you for listening, and happy cycling.